वासुदेवाय नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अपत्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the Monday morning Brahma-saṁhitā discussion. We are discussing from Sloka number 53. Dhammo-dapāpa-nijayashrudayastapāṁsi ब्रह्मादिकीटपतगावदयश्च जीवाः यद्दत्तमात्रविभवप्रगडप्रभावा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. The translation goes like this. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose comfort power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances, and all jivas from Brahma to the meanest insect. I think the purport is small, I can read it. By dharma, it is Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura ki jai.
You took from him, huh?
No, it's mine.
Pardon me?
No need to read puppet. I can go ahead with that discussion straight.
No problem. It was somebody speaking. That's it. Please continue. Sorry.
Okay. By dharma is meant the allotted functions of varna and ashrama manifested by the 20 dharma shastras on the authority of the Vedas. Of these two divisions, varna dharma is that function which is the outcome of the distinctive natures of the four varnas, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And ashrama dharma is that function which is appropriate with respect to the ashramas or stations of those who belong to the four stages, that is brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. All customary activities of mankind have been targeted in these twofold divisions. Since means shines the root of all sins and sinful desire. Also the greatest iniquities and sins flowing from them, and the ordinary sin, that is all sorts of unprincipled conduct. The category of the Shrutis means Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, and the Upanishads which form the crest well of the Vedas. The tapas means all regular practices that are learned with a view of the attainment of the proper function of the self. In many cases, for example, in the form known as Pancha Tapas, these practices are of a different character with its 8 constituents, limbs, and devotedness to the knowledge of the undifferentiated Brahman are included therein. All these so many distinctive features within the revolving round of the fruitive activities of conditioned souls. Conditioned souls are embarked on the sojourn of the successive births from 84 lakhs of varieties of generating organs. They are differentiated into different orders of beings as Devatas, Danavas, Rakshasas, Manavas, Nagas, Kinnaras, and Gandharvas. These jivas, from Brahma down to the small insect, are infinite in type. They make up the aggregate of the conditioned souls from the degree of Brahma to that of the little fly, and are the distinctive features within the revolving wheel of karma. Every one of them is endowed with distinctive powers as individuals and is powerful in a particular sphere, but these powers are by the nature not fully developed in them. The degree of power and nature property vary according to the measure of manifestation of the processions of the individual conferred upon them by Sri Govinda. Hare Krishna. So here in this verse, we see that Brahmaji prays to Lord Krishna. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose comfort power are maintained the manifested potencies. That means here there's a mention that there are from Brahma to all the way to the meanest insect, smallest insect possible. The Lord endows all these jivas with particular potencies. What are those potencies that are found to exist? All virtues. That is, one is called dharma. Now here, normally dharma means religion, but in this particular verse, dharma refers to the meaning of the varnasrama system. So, the four varnas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And the four ashramas are Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. So in both these varnas and ashramas, the duties that are the karma that is performed by the living entities, particularly when it comes to the human form of life, which I'll come to later, what are the classifications of human form of life, the karmas which the living entities do, they are of various types. One is that for example, we take Brahmachari. Bhishma Deva was a great Brahmachari, and that too he was a Naishtika Brahmachari. He was a celibate throughout his life. Now, that endowment of power that Bhishma Deva had, not everybody could have that power. Even normal, the brahmacharis, many times they take up the saffron clothes and then later on they feel that they can't sustain the this thing, asrama, and then they feel that they have to get married and they enter grihasthasrama. But Bhishma Deva lived a Naishtika brahmachari. He remained a lifelong celibate. On the other hand, we see Vidura. He was a great grihastha. He was a great devotee of the Lord. And his family was also, though he was born from a lower grade by birth, but he was a great devotee of the Lord and he was a perfect grihastha. So these are examples of how within the Varnashrama system, there are different kinds of activities that are performed. Now, this endowment of power, not everybody can be a successful grihastha. Many turn out to be grihamedis also. So whether one remains as a brahmachari or a grihastha or whatever ashramas they are, or whatever varnas are there, brahmanas have performed their duties, kshatriyas are supposed to fight. Now all these, Arjuna was a great kshatriya warrior. Now Arjuna could not have become a great kshatriya warrior without the empowerment of Krishna, which we see in Mahabharata also. So all these endowment of power or potencies are given by the Supreme Lord himself to the living entities. Now Duryodhan was sin personified. A vulture can actually see look for its prey about 5 kilometers away. Now it is said. Whereas we normal human beings nowadays, we can't see even a short distance without a glass. Like I'm myself wearing a glass. So the point is that all these endowment of powers are given to the living entities by the Supreme Lord himself. A human form of life is given with an intelligence to think and inquire about the absolute truth. That is the purpose of a human form of life. A lion or a tiger, their food is freshly killed animals, whereas an elephant, it is so huge, it's so huge, but it eats only vegetarian food. So this is how we see different species of life, and all of them have different natures and different this way of living. So all these are empowered by none other than the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna himself. The next, it is meant dharmo the papa. So the papa here are sins that are performed by the living entities. The sins means the root of all, includes the root of all sins, sinful desires, and also the inquiries and sins of that iniquities and sins coming from them, and ordinary sins also. All of these come under the sinful category. Like I mentioned, Duryodhana was a sin personified. He wanted to arrest the Lord himself. So these for tendency to commit the sins also comes from the Lord himself. That somebody has a desire, the Lord does not. The Jiva is a living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Still, they think themselves to be independent of the Lord. So if somebody has got a desire that I must perform a sinful activity, the Lord does not stop him. Rather, the Lord empowers him to fulfill his desire. So Duryodhana is one such example himself. The Lord was right in front of him. Still, he could not see the Lord. On the other hand, he wanted to arrest the Lord. So this is what is dharmo tapapa. Nichayas trutayas tapamsi. Shrutayas. Shrutayas means here all the Vedas and all the Upanishads. They form the crestwell of the Vedas. The four Vedas include Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda, and also all the Upanishads. So it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that Vedas are the transcendental sounds vibration that are emanating from the lotus mouth of the Lord himself. So there is no difference between the Lord and the transcendental sound. So Vedas are all these Shrutis, they emanate from the Lord himself. In Mahabharata, we find Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavata. And so Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are compiled by Shri Vyasadeva, who is also an incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself. So this is what is meant by Dharmo Tapapa Nide Srutayas. The next one is Tapamsi. Tapamsi means austerities. The word tapas or austerity means voluntarily accepting uh, uh, bodily inconveniences for a higher purpose. And these tapas, they come from the pancha tapas, which are in the Shastras, and they vary from different person to person. But austerity as a principle is meant, they are the one of the pillars of religion. That means there are 4 pillars of religion: austerity, mercy, truthfulness, and cleanliness. And austerity is one of them. Austerity means a voluntary acceptance of bodily convenience for higher purpose, that is knowing Vasudeva, not otherwise. Now, Hiranyakashipu and Ravana also underwent severe austerities, but they underwent these to achieve sense gratification, which ultimately resulted in misery. On the other hand, we find that Vasudeva and Devaki, they underwent severe penances to get Krishna as their son. Dhruva Maharaj, he performed a lot of austerities. Brahmaji, Brahma performed tapasya for thousands of years, and finally he could not find where he was actually, what is the source of the stem in which he was situated. Finally, he heard the word tapas and he performed tapasya. This is one example. The principles of austerity for a human being are given as no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. Devahuti is a perfect example of austerity. She served her husband Kardamuni in such a way that she became very skinny, and later Kardamuni, out of compassion for her, transformed her into a beautiful woman like she was when she was in the house of her father, Swayambhuva Manu. In the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he performed austerity. When he was in the forest, he ate only fruits and berries once in 3 days for the first month, and then progressed in his worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the second month, he ate only leaves and dry grass once in every 6 days and continued his worship. In the third month, he drank water once in 9 days. By then, he remained completely in trance. He reached the Samadhi stage. And finally, in the fourth month, he inhaled only air once in 12 days and became completely fixed in this position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is said that by the 5th month, he was in a position to completely stand in one leg by controlling his breathing. And when this captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the 3 worlds began to tremble. That is how powerful his austerity was. So there are quotes in Bhagavad Gita also. But all these potency or power to perform this tapasya is given by the Supreme Lord himself. Then the next point that is mentioned here is that all those distinctive features within the are revolving around the fruitive activities of the conditioned souls. That means Brahmadi Kita Padagaya Datta Jivaha Yad Datra Matra Vibhava Prakar Prabhava. So these potencies are endowed by the Lord himself to the conditioned living entities. Now here the conditioned souls in the purport that is mentioned about the conditioned souls are classified into 85 lakhs of species of life. But in the human form of life, they are differentiated into different orders as Devas, Dhanavas, Rakshasas, Manavas, Nagas, Kinnaras, and Gandharvas. And these jivas from Brahma down to the smallest insect are infinite type. That means there are so many infinite classifications, infinite number of jivas also. And then the aggregate of this is what is called the conditioned souls, and they are all revolving around the wheel of karma. Now, when it comes to the wheel of karma, the other than the human form of life, others don't have the wheel of karma because they have that natural tendency. But in the case of human form of life, which is classified into the above categories, all are under the wheel of karma. And based on whatever karma they have performed in the human form of life, even if they enter the animal species or lower species of life, they are given with their endowed nature. So karma follows from the human form of life. So all these distinctive powers and powerful natures are given not by, people say generally by nature, or by their nature they are developed in them. But this degree of power and nature or property vary according to the various species of life and depending on the possession of the individuality, not that every human being has got the same quality and quantity. So similarly, every living entity has got a different quality and different quantity, but all these are conferred upon none other than the Lord Sri Govinda, that is Krishna himself. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. If anybody has got any questions, any comments, you can ask me for the next 1 or 2 minutes. Does any hand have any questions? If not, I'll take the class as concluded. Then thank you all very much. Śrī Brahma-saṁhitā class ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam to everybody.